First question is from Francis Miaoganu, and his question is he wants tips for high wind sites, also passive airflow and heat retention tips.
Gosh, high wind sites. When we had that hurricane here 3 weeks ago, I was looking out the window the whole time,
Yeah,
thinking, is the greenhouse going to blow away? And it's been through 4 hurricanes, many nor'easters with winds in different directions. So I'm on top of a hill. And so my greenhouse has been put through a lot. So the reason I bought that structure is because I knew it could take it. So that's one thing. Invest in a structure that's going to put up with the growing conditions you have. So,
right.
I mean, high winds, are certainly a part of life where I live. So I went with a structure that's super sturdy, and well rated for that. So I would say try to do that, particularly if you're going to grow year round. I mean, if you're just looking for spring starting seedlings, maybe some summer tomato protection, that sort of thing, maybe some early fall crops, you could have a temporary structure, that it just has like the supports, the metal supports or wooden supports. You cover with the plastic, and then that's taken off and stored for winter when there's like storms and things like that. So you could do that if you don't want year-round harvesting. So look at your local greenhouses. What are other people growing in near you, whether they're homeowners or farmers? Talk to greenhouse supply stores, garden centers, and just to make sure that you end up with a structure that's going to be really strong. So I would say, and for mine as well, not only is it steel hoops, like again, professional greenhouse rated, we've mounted it on hemlock base and then use 3 foot long rebar stakes to mount it to the ground. So it's not going anywhere. Like the
Not going
plastic
away.
might fly off sometime, but the
Yeah,
structure is not going anywhere. And
right.
I said, if we move in a couple of years, I'm taking that with me. And my husband's like, no, that's staying. I'll get a new one because that is so in the ground.
Yes.
Um, yeah, but in terms of like heat retention, if you're trying to hold heat in, for example, like it's October right now. So yeah, the days are pretty mild, but then it gets pretty chilly at nighttime. So for example, I have roll up sides. It's one of the reasons I went with a polytunnel. It makes venting so easy. So I might have one side or the door open right now, because it's warm and sunny out, and then it's going to get cold. I close it up in late afternoon. Don't wait until nighttime when the temperatures have dropped. Close it up early to retain that heat.
Uh,
You could also have a poly, like most professional greenhouses, if they had a polytunnel, they would have 2 layers of poly and an inflation kit fan to keep like a layer of air between those 2 layers. So you could do that as well. That certainly retains a lot more heat, but then you need an electrical source, and it's going to cost more money. So,
I see.
but that's an option too. And you and I already talked about sort of different ways to, preserve heat and retain heat, whether it's rocks or bricks for pathways, water reservoirs, things like that. I think you said passive ventilation.
Well,
Well,
just
that's my roll up.
not
Yeah,
ventilation, but I think airflow. So how do you sustain some, because you need some degree of airflow in the
yes,
greenhouse to prevent mold and mildew and all that nasty sort of stuff and plant health. So
yeah.
how do you ensure a degree of airflow in there other than just
It
opening
depends
the
on the
door
structure. Yeah.
stuff, right?
Yes, but it depends on the structure. If you have like a glass or polycarbonate greenhouse, then they will usually come with vents, like roof vents that help allow air to vent out. They might even come with a fan. So you might need a fan depending what type of structure you have. And they come on maybe a couple times an hour, depending on the temperature and the humidity to get the air flowing. But for me with the polytunnel, I just roll the sides up. I mean, air flows very well through that. I do have 2 windows in the back. I also have the front door I can open to. But I find the roll up sides just make it very easy to vent, and make sure the air flows really well.
What do you do in February?
Oh, then it's closed. But in February, I'm not worried about airflow so much because I'm more worried about trying to keep all of the heat that's in there during the
Uh,
day. So yeah, I'm not worried about airflow in February. There's not really plant diseases happening in February. The
too
temperatures are too
cold
cold.
for real problems. Yeah, I
There's no
guess.
slugs either, Greg.
Yes. Well, and I also think like with I found this in our house as well because one of our rooms has a cathedral ceiling.
Oh yeah.
Um, I think when you have that dome, and especially when there's a certain volume of air, I think
Mm.
there's almost a natural air turbulence because you have got the sun shining on this side, so one side might be a bit warmer than the other side, and it just creates.
Yeah, for sure.
I think there's a natural air turbulence in a dome.
Yeah.
I love the dome shape, and I think there's also something to be said with regard to high winds. And you see it,
Mm.
I've seen some of these actually right down in like Prospect and Terrence Bay, um, right by the water. People have these glass A-frame greenhouse, and I'm like, man, you are
I know what
asking
you
for
mean.
it with it because I mean it's just 90-degree wall, whereas what you've got,
Yeah.
It can take. It's made for wind.
Yeah,
Really
and
is.
it does. It goes up, but then like this, so it does. It sheds wind very easily. I mean, a type of structure that sheds wind the best would be a dome, a geodesic dome, and
Yeah.
you can DIY your own, but you really need to be very good at math,
Yeah.
or you can buy a kit. So I would
Yeah.
suggest buying a kit. The neighbors that have one that I know, they have a kit. They bought a kit. I think it was 26 feet in diameter. So it's like 13 feet in the middle because it's half the height is half the diameter. And then they have
Right.
it on a 2 foot high knee wall, I think it is. So it's like
Right.
15 feet in the middle. And my gosh, like tomatoes in there in like May are like 10 feet tall. It's crazy. It never freezes
Man.
in there. And it's triple twin wall or triple polycarbonate. So it's very insulating.
Well, you've almost. I mean, last year I had you on, or last spring I had you on to talk about transplants.
Oh
And
yeah.
I don't usually do transplants, but I actually did some. And it
How'd it
was the
go?
first year I ever got peppers in my garden. Like I've
Oh
had a hell
good.
of a time getting them to grow because it's just so foggy and miserable here. So I
Yeah.
used a variety of pepper that Lee Reich recommended. He said
Hmm.
grows fast, sweet Italian.
Oh
And
yeah.
I started them in 1st of March and carefully put them out, hardened them off according to your instructions. And we're still eating them. Like we have
It's
ridiculous amount of
amazing.
peppers, right? Now eggplant didn't go as well, but I didn't give it the prime real estate. Like I have like best spot in the garden.
Yeah. Oh
The
yeah.
peppers were
That's the
near
greenhouse. That's why you need a greenhouse.
greenhouse. Yeah, so maybe. Well, and I'm thinking in my head of ways I could just make one using
You can use
um,
mini hoop tunnels for sure.
yeah, just being clever with something bigger than what I just go bigger, a bigger version of a hoop tunnel.
Yeah, I
But
mean, you can get a metal bender as well. Like I have one to bend 10 foot long metal, like a tubing sort of
conduit,
thing. And that's
yeah,
the word. It's a hard
yeah.
word to remember today.
Yes.
So you can bend that over top, and mine just makes perfect 4 foot wide, short pieces. But you can get them 6 feet wide as well, and get longer pieces of conduit, or even just bend it so then you use a center connector, and you can easily make a walk-in poly tunnel
Oh,
that
I can
way.
tell you, I'm percolating right now. Um,
Or PVC pipes with connectors. I mean,
PVC.
I see people do that. It's not
These
quite as strong necessarily, but 3 season greenhouse.
these are the sort of things. If I'm trying to get asleep in bed, I'll start engineering
That
in my head, right?
would keep me awake.
Yes, no, that's like I get because you think of it's something you'll think about like all season long, and you
Oh yeah.
in your mind's eye, oh, how do I solve this problem? What do I do about that? And I can spend a long time thinking through something like that. If you want to help support the channel and everything I'm doing here, buy your seeds and gardening supplies at Bessies.com using my coupon code GAVS22. Or become a paid subscriber to my weekly column at maritimegardening.substack.com. It's $5 a month or $30 a year. It's all about gardening and a little bit about cooking, and I pump out a new article every Tuesday morning. And as a bonus for subscribing, every time I get 100 new paid subscribers, I will randomly choose one lucky winner to receive a $100 gift certificate at the online garden store of their choice. So maybe give one of those things a try. It'll help out a lot. Thanks and happy gardening.